I want you to do one thing for me today. And that's keep fighting. Keep going through this problem, this situation. Don't give up. Put one foot in front of the other. That's how you're going to make it through this, past this, over this. It's going to take the dog mentality. It's going to take you getting a hold of this thing and not letting go. You're going to have to fight and fight and fight till you can't fight anymore.
Stress doesn't come from the facts. Stress comes from the meaning that we give to the facts. Yes, those things have happened. But the real question is, if we fight what's happened, we got a problem. We got to decide, what are we going to do with what's happened in our life? How are we going to take this? How are we going to mold this? How are we going to turn our life around? Because when you come up with a new meaning, you get a new life.
A lot of times when people interrupt you, they're managing their own anxiety, boredom, procrastination by coming to interrupt you. They're creating reasons to interrupt their own work or their own emotional state by coming and interrupting you. That's what I realized was happening.
What is the single force that controls the quality of your life? You got to start with what it is you really, truly want now. You got to start with that end in mind. And then once you understand there is a gap between where you are and where you want to be, here's all we do. We believe that the most powerful way to change anything is total immersion.
Now I want you to ask yourself, do you give as good as you get? Add up what you're getting and weigh it against what you're giving, and then you will know whether you're really joined to anything. Life is hard. For every time you have a plan, a dream, an aspiration, or a goal, do you know what happens every time you have one of those? This thing comes along called life.
So you've got to ask yourself, what's your why? What motivates you? What pushes you? What drives you? And if that thing is internal, if nobody has to call you, if nobody has to prize you, if nobody has to reward you, if you are self-motivated and self-regulated, you can have it, you can be it, you can do it.
Other than death, all failure is psychological. It does not mean that you won't lose some battles, because you will. We all will. But it does mean that as long as you don't surrender, as long as you don't quit, then you haven't failed.
How do you experience beauty and joy in your life? What situations do you put yourself in? What makes you laugh? What's the fun stuff for you?
It's funny you say that. I just retired from the military in November of 2015. And I was going and going and going and going. And I never really, I was a happy guy, but I'm never in the moment of like sitting back and I want to travel here to have fun and do this and that. I've never been that person. But the first time I really got a chance to experience true happiness and true peace was so what I did to myself to become who I am today, it takes a great toll on your body. So I believe God gave me time to rest and he took me out of commission. Not even the mind of Goggins could get me back up. So I had about a good 6-7 months where I was out. And when I was out, I had time to reflect on all I had accomplished. And that was the first time in my life where I sat back and said, wow. Because only I may be telling you some of the story, I know the exact truth of how brutal my life was and how I shouldn't be on this show today and how the mind and how beautiful it is. So what brings me joy and happiness is knowing how beautiful the mind is. And I'm one of the few people that didn't read about it, didn't experience it through some drug. I got to experience the beauty of true fucking willpower. True you, I'm gonna fail, I'm gonna fucking fail, I'm gonna fucking fail, I'm gonna fucking fail, and I will succeed. Just me talking about that gives me a feeling, I know what I did. And I don't need to travel somewhere or to have this or have that. I have it all here in my mind. The beauty is remembering this young, dumb, what people call nigger, is now where I'm at today. And that is, when you finally get to that point for me, it's forever lasting peace. I could die right now on this show, and I'll be happy man. So that's my happiness, is my reflection on the suffering of my journey, knowing I never quit, nor was I guided by anybody on this earth. I was guided by something much more powerful, and I listened, and I chose the path of most resistance. Talent not required.
What does it mean that talent isn't enough, and how do you achieve greatness if you can't just rely on talent?
Well, it's kind of one of those things, and I'm so glad that, we're able to have this conversation, because I feel that I'm one of those guys to kind of bridge the gap to help people understand the game of basketball a little more. And not to say that somebody's going to be a diehard right away, but there are simple kind of connections in there that I think will really, I've talked to people and seen the light come on and say, oh, okay, that's how it is. Usually we always had a saying in the NBA, if you play hard, you give yourself a chance. And in my career, I had so many instances. I've had hundreds of teammates. And in that, you always have an interesting scenario where you see the difference between talent and hard work. Of course, if you're a talented hard worker, then if you put the talent with the hard work, then now we're talking. But I've seen so many times and so many people not reach their potential only because they didn't want to do the work. The talent was there. I think even sometimes the love for the game or the love for the field that they're doing is there, but you have to combine it with that toughness and hard work. And, there's no cheating the process. I think sometimes...
What is the process?
Yes. Doing things every day. So I always like to work backwards. So for instance, if I'm a basketball player and I want to be a better shooter, well, I say, okay, I want to be a better shooter. That is my goal. What do I have to do daily to ensure that I can become a better shooter? Some people would say, well, you need a teacher. Not necessarily so. You have to sometimes go and seek the information, put in the work. That could be a part of one of the days of the process to becoming a better shooter. So I always try to make sure that I put the work in myself, only because you see how so many people, leave their talent on the table, so to speak. I mean, and sometimes that can be it's a gift and a curse, right? You can be the most talented person in the room. That'll automatically bring your work ethic down a little bit. And that's something you have to fight. But I think sometimes, especially in younger people, you think it's going to last forever. You think it's always going to be here and I don't have to try so hard. I've seen so many people just be hard workers, and then, that gives them a seat at the table just by their work ethic. We're not even talking about talent right now, but when you combine that talent with the hard work, I think that's when you get the lighter fuel to get you where you need to go.
No one's coming back to help me. So it starts with that person in that mirror. You have to realize you are on your own now. And whatever else you believe in, I don't care what you believe in, but on earth, it's a very lonely journey. And it starts with the accountability mirror, looking and saying, hey, all these things are coming back. I have to face myself.
The difference between vision and a goal is the finish line. A goal is 26.2 miles. You can simply count the metrics and know when you've completed your goal. As a vision is having a crystal clear sense of what the finish line looks like, but no idea of how far away it is. And the reality is you will spend your entire life never actually crossing the finish line, but the joy that every marathon you complete, you feel like you're getting closer. Every milestone that you accomplish makes you feel like you're getting closer and closer to the ideal, and this is what gives our life and our work meaning.
I think in the end, persistence is more important than anything else. And having a desire to do something, you want to prove something. So you have a vision of where you want to go, you're willing to persist and overcome. That's probably the key thing. You have to have a vision where you want to go. You have to be persistent in it. You have to be willing to overcome failures and not be afraid of making a mistake.
You don't become what you want. You become where your habits take you.
There's no ending. And that's the person I listen to. That's the person who's gained knowledge. You gain knowledge through suffering. And on the other end of suffering is a world that very few have ever seen. It's a beautiful world, because that's where you find yourself.
I thought, how about I just leap with my imperfection and then find my form of perfecting my imperfection while I'm sorry? How about I do that? How about you not wait to get it right? You figure out, how does it look doing it wrong? How does that look? Because your 80% of right is somebody else's 159% of what you need. And when you want to do it right, and you want to wait till you're not afraid, and you want to wait till you have it all together, oh, you made it about you again. See, Nelson Mandela did it. He just did it not knowing if it were right. Mahatma Gandhi just did it not knowing if it were right. Mother Teresa just did it not looking for affirmation or confirmation. Is this right? Martin Luther King did it not even knowing if it would happen before his life ended.
Because I have a dream.
I mean, what are you waiting on? Are you willing to do it free?